This is Women in Music with Gfire Podcast, episode number 41 with singer-songwriter Erin O'Keefe. Hey, Erin O'Keefe, welcome to my studio.
Why, thank you so much, Gfire. Thanks so much for having me here.
Yeah, I figured you're actually a perfect match for my independent women in music podcast.
Well, it's my honor and my pleasure, so thank you so much.
So let's get down to business. Where are you originally from?
Great question. I was born in Columbus, Ohio. And I moved when I was probably 19 to New York City. And then I kind of bounced around a little bit. I was in Savannah, Georgia for like 5 years. I was in a bunch of different places in Brooklyn. And then I've been in Austin since 2011. And I've dug my spurs into the soil here. I am not moving.
Not going back to NYC?
No, probably not. I mean, I say that, never say never. You never know what's going to happen, especially we've seen in the last few years how quickly everything can change when you think there are givens or you think you know something. So you don't know. But yeah, if I have anything to do with it and if things stay the same enough, I'm going to stay here. Stay
here in Austin.
It's my home, yeah.
Very cool. And how about bringing you to being a singer-songwriter? What got you started doing that?
Another great question. So I've been involved in music in some way, shape, or form since I was a little kid, but I didn't start singing or writing until I moved to Austin. So I was already in my late 20s by the time I even started doing it. But I feel like the whole rest of my life was sort of my education or my prep work. Mm-hmm. I've listened to everything, across genres, across eras, across continents. So all of that makes it into the influences that I have or the ear that I have when I end up writing or what comes out. And yeah, I mean, when I was like super little, my aunt taught me piano, and then she passed away when I was 12, so piano went away, and then I played flute and, like as a teenager.
Right. Okay.
And then that kind of went away because I ended up doing technical theater, which is where I learned sound, which was very important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I learned how to run a Big Mackie board. I learned about feedback loops. I learned about, air on the mic.
Absolutely.
As people walk around. So like, and that the mic doesn't actually make the sound, the person makes the sound, the mic amplifies the sound. Some singers still struggle with that.
I hear you.
So yeah, and then when I was maybe 14 or 15, my cousin, who is 10 years older than I am, managed a band. So that I was 14, 15, they were 24, 25. Mm-hmm. They were kind of rock and roll band, and they did, like Rolling Stones and Lou Reed covers and a bunch of originals kind of in that same vein. And I was the little sister and they took me everywhere. So like I was the merch kid and I got free everything. And I was also free labor for them. So I kind of learned the back end of the business that way. I learned all the barkeeps. I learned all the bookies. I learned everybody who there was to know because while the band was up there doing their thing, I was stuck in one spot and everyone would come talk to me. I ended up facilitating a lot of different things later on, like in my early 20s, would help people get gigs from New York or from, like bands who I liked or whatever would need help when they came to town, and I would volunteer to help them. And then I met other people and just kind of ended up being this like person in the middle of the big spider web of the industry, and just had, I'd made no money and had all of the good intentions. So that's kind of like my background. And then I bought a guitar and never really played it and just didn't have time. I was kind of working around the clock just to survive and get myself through college and whatever else. So by the time I got to Austin was maybe the first time that I had the luxury of not having to work around the clock. Like I got myself a decent job in New York after a lot of clawing. And then was able to take that job to Austin. And then after like a year of that, I quit everything and then I started a band, and then I started all my creative projects and started writing and all that stuff.
So really, we're talking about 11 years worth of songwriting.
Yeah.
To bring you to this point today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have any career highlights so far you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think my most proud achievement as far as career highlights go is this record. The record for this O'Keefe project, which is called Light Within. I engineered, produced it myself. I recorded, 98% of it in my little studio. I wrote all but one of the songs on it, and the other, the one song that I didn't write, my good friend Stoney Gable, who's part of my little old songwriting crew, he wrote it, and I kind of took it from him with his blessing, of course. Mm-hmm. It's funny, he did a record that I produced in my studio, and that song is on his as well with way different arrangements, but yeah, so. That was, and I got just a ton of really amazing people to be involved with that, and amazing players, and I kind of took a year to really put it together. So I would say that is like the top of the mountain as far as my career highlights go. And then I think the rest of my career highlights all have to do with just the amazing places that I've found myself and the amazing people that I've been able to work with. So I know one of those times, I'll say like the most nervous I've ever been on stage, because of how kind of big it was my good friend and mentor, Rosie Flores, had me as part of a big old crew of girls who did an all Elvis tribute at the Continental Club. And I was more nervous. I mean, the place was packed, which didn't bother me as much, but I was mostly nervous because of the band on the stage. Our backing band was nuts. It was, first of all, Rosie.
Of course.
It was Earl Poole Ball, who's played with Johnny Cash and Graham Parsons and everybody. Uh-huh. It was Casper Rawls, who's, buddies and has played with Buck Owens and has an incredible resume as well. Mas Palermo, who's played with, he's in Monty Warden's band, played with the Wagoneers, and I think he, Kelly Willis and Bruce Robeson. It was just a crazy, to get up and kind of sing Little Old Me, sing some Elvis songs. Was maybe the most, I don't know that I should have been nervous, I guess, but just the kind of gravity of like the level of experience.
On stage, yeah.
Was definitely a career highlight for sure. And then just the people I've worked with, the first iteration of this band that I played live with were all members of Rocky Erickson's old band.
Oh, wow.
So it was basically, and it actually ended up being kind of emotional because my first gig was the first gig that they all played together since Rocky had died. Okay. And it was not very long after that had happened. It was only a couple months. So that was a little emotional and surreal to have that happen, but they're all really good friends of mine, and I've known them for a long time, so it made sense, and we all have worked together and just wanted to do it. But
and where was that show?
That was at Sam's Town Point.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. Wow. And now, is this your first record?
That's the first record for this project.
This project.
So I was in a little indie trio called The Succulents way back when, and I also engineered, produced a full-length record for that band as well. But I was only one of 3 writers in that band.
Okay, and it was 3 women?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah. Are they still in the industry? No?
They are not. One of them is in Mexico, and one of them is in Germany.
Well, they're just traveling the world, living that dream.
They left me. Yeah. No, we all definitely still keep in touch, and they're like my sisters. Like, we're all really super close. But yeah, they're not doing music, and they don't live in this country anymore. So
that's pretty wild, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have will they get you gigs like in Mexico or Germany? Did you say?
I don't know that they could. I don't think they're like on the scene
they're just,
or know the people.
They're just not in that circle anymore.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Audrey about playing in Berlin before too, but Berlin's kind of weird. Like, there's not there's not really much of like an indie rock kind of scene there. It's all like industrial and club music and DJs and
wow.
like, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either, but apparently
that's it. Okay.
Apparently that's the case. Yeah.
Wow. That's some cool stuff. How did you meet Rosie Flores?
Great question. I don't even remember.
Okay.
I'm positive that like somebody introduced us one night like after one of her shows somewhere. And I kind of can't even remember where. It would have been like Elephant Room or White Horse or Continental or something like that.
One of her normal haunts.
Yeah, and then I think we probably had met like a handful of times before we actually kind of like became friends and had a conversation and whatever. But yeah, I think we ended up at a place where we started talking, and I think she was looking for some help with like copywriting stuff, and I'm like, oh, you should look up Tal Arts. I don't know if you're familiar with Tal Arts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I tried to kind of help get her some assistance there, and she's like, oh, well, we were talking about my stuff. Well, I'll give you some guitar lessons. Okay. And we kind of like bartered, just helping each other out that way, and just kind of became buddies.
That's a really sweet story.
Yeah, she's a really sweet person.
She is. I mean, I'm glad to have had her on here, and I'm sure she's proud of you for how you're doing in your career as well.
She is.
Yeah. Have we any cautionary tales you'd like to share?
I had to think about this one. I'm glad you sent me the questions ahead of time. I did have to. This is the one where it's like, ooh, I don't know.
You don't have to, but sometimes there'll be interesting stories, or you really need to not do this, or.
Yeah, well, I think this is sort of like the lessons learned question, and one of the lessons that I've learned that has sort of like knocked me back into my place is to always be humble and kind. And nobody is out of reach, and everybody is human. So, like there was a band that was really popular in the 70s and 80s, and they had big radio hits. And by the time that I heard them, and I was old enough to hear it, it was like old hat radio play that just got, spun and spun and spun and spun. So I kind of had I just hated them. I hated them, and I hate every time it's like they sing those songs that like everybody sings along to when it comes on the radio, whatever, and it's just like bleh. I just couldn't do it, couldn't stomach it. And I have spent decades just talking trash
about them,
about this band that are just they're just larger than life and so big that like I'll never meet them, or so I thought.
Okay, but you did.
Well, so yeah, I ended up I sang some backing vocals for a friend of mine for one of his records, and then he invited me in to the studio, and the studio was like part run, like they have their actual studio, and then they also have his partner's father's house that also has a whatever. So his partner's father is in this band, was one of the founding members of this band, and was so sweet to me and so welcoming. And I found myself in his home singing vocals at a very vulnerable position, like I'm nobody, and he has got me in his home, and like I just felt like garbage for all the trash that I have talked about this band. It's like, you know what? That's a good lesson from the universe. Like, sit down, nobody needs to be talking trash. Like, if it's not, you just don't say it. Like, keep it to yourself. If you're not putting, positive, encouraging, supportive words out there, then just let them die inside your head. Don't spew them out. Don't spew out your negativity into the world, for whatever reason it's there, because it could come back to bite you. Even when you think it can't, it could.
It could, right. Wow, that's crazy, but okay. Yes, we won't talk about the name of the band. All right, so we recorded a couple of songs. The first one, oops, where's my sheet?
Oh, it's right.
I think I gave it to you. Aha. The first one is All the Time. Can you tell me a little bit about this song?
Yeah, I sure can. That is probably the song that I've I wrote the most recently of everything on the record.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wrote that inspired by fictional characters.
Okay.
So, you know, I don't know if you watched the whole series of Orange is the New Black.
No, I haven't, but that's okay.
It was one of those things that I got to way late. Like, everyone else had already seen it and whatever. And then, like, right before the very last season came out, or maybe it was right after, I had started watching it, and then I ended up binging, because that's, you know, like, when it's really good, that's what you do. So I binged the whole thing in, like, you know, a couple months, I think, which is a tight, I know some people do it in like a couple days, but that's a really tight timeline for me.
Yeah, I think, you know, how many episodes are we talking?
There's like 7 seasons. So
7 seasons, so like...
it's a lot, yeah.
Okay, but you really got into it.
I really got into it. And then, like, at the end, so the way that it leaves off is, you know, the show is about, you know, women who are incarcerated.
Right. I know that part.
Right. And then there's this love story in the middle of it, and or at the center of it, and then at the end, one of them gets out and the other one is stuck there for quite a while. And that's kind of like where they leave it, is how, and then, you know, the one who's stuck there gets transferred to another state, and, like, what are they going to do? So that was just the premise of, like, how hard that was going to be. And that whole situation and scenario kind of inspired me to kind of put it to words and music.
To words, okay. Well, let's listen to that song.
echoes in my mind. Still want you all the time. You're deep in my head, and I want you in my bed. I still want you all the time, all the time, and I want you all the time.
I'm probably not the first to ask, but do you like the Cowboy Junkies? You have a little bit of Cowboy Junkies style to my ear, anyway.
I do. I love Margot and her voice, and yeah. And thanks for saying that. I get a lot of. There's other like there's a handful of female vocalists that I always get compared to.
Really?
Yeah, over and over again.
Who else?
Well, Hope Sandoval, I get a whole lot. Who's Mazzy Star.
Oh, okay.
Band. Yep. I get Cat Power, and I get Nora Jones, like over and over.
Those are the ones. Well, I think the whole vibe felt sort of Cowboy Junkies-ish.
Well, thanks.
To me.
Yeah, that's a compliment. I love them. I loved that band. I definitely listened to them growing up. And I think, the influences thing and the comparison to other artists thing,
yeah.
I think that where that really comes from, at least in my mind, is I bet that like none of them are like super hardcore direct influences to me, but I bet you that we have very similar record collections.
That would make sense.
I bet that like the way that we process things and it comes out is sort of like we're using the same ingredients. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And those are good people to be compared to.
Yeah, not bad.
yeah, that doesn't suck at all. All right, the second song is called "Someday I'll Write You a Love Song."
Yeah.
And is that one based on fiction or reality?
More fact.
More fact. Okay.
Yeah, that was one, and maybe not a single experience, but just I think I wrote it when I was in heartbreak, but I made it a little broader than just that singular. It was
that particular
more about
individual.
like kind of heartbreak in general. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was one of the magic ones that kind of came out in like 10 or 15 minutes, which
wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few people that do that all the time, like Bob Dylan, but like for the rest of us mere mortals, like you maybe get one or two in a lifetime that like come out that quick.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that was one of them. So that's kind of got that lightning bolt specialness to it to me.
All right, well, now we'll check this one out.
Glad to be walking and talking. I'm glad for the cool air tonight, but I can't help this sinking feeling. It's anything but peaceful inside, and I never thought I'd go through this again. Lord, please make this the last time. Well, someday I'll write you a love song. Tonight I'm drinking you off of my mind. Maybe it's the heat of the summer in Austin. Oh, baby, I'm not meant for this life. Maybe I'm not done learning my lesson, or it could be the bottle at my side. I'm just not ready to let go so soon. But you called it, and I got no choice. Well, someday I'll write you a love song with a bottle of whiskey and the sound of my voice. I know you'll need time, it's an honest decision. But time's all we got till we die. And all of these days without you are the longest I've spent in a while. And I don't know if I can wait forever. God knows, and you know I'll try. Well, someday I'll write you a love song, but tonight I'm singing you out of my mind. Yeah, someday I'll write you a love song, but tonight I'm drinking you off of my mind.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for bringing Jeff in to the studio as well, doing the backup guitar bits.
For sure. Jeff's great.
And well, do you have any other plugs you want to make?
Yeah, I mean, if you are inclined to follow folks on Instagram, my handle is O'Keefe is me, so it's OKEEFE, just one F is me. And then my website is O'Keefe-music.com.
Music.com. Mm-hmm.
And from those places, you can find everything else. So like all the links to Spotify and Apple Music and Bandcamp and wherever else, merch and our tour dates and anything else, our contact information, anything else that you could want, you can get through those places.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your upcoming tour.
Sure.
Yeah. Who is going with you?
Great question. So, bandmate number one is going to be Ben Galloway. And Ben is a Swiss Army knife of a dude. So he has been my lead guitar player. He's been my bass player. He's been my drummer.
Wow.
So on this tour, he's going to be both my bass player and my drummer. So we're going to have him set up with a little like suitcase kick and a tambo, and then he's going to play bass.
Wow.
So we're still working out the arrangements of how this is going to like pan out.
Okay.
Now.
Okay.
But
it's just you and him?
no, we're also gonna take baby bear Braden Guess with us. And Braden is a fuzzy-headed shred maestro. I love him so much. He's really an amazing guitar player. So he is currently out on tour with his other band, She-Verb and Betty Benededli.
Okay.
Who would be a great interview.
Please pass me her info. I'm always looking for the right ladies for this thing.
Absolutely connect you to. She's super interesting, and they just spent a month out in Joshua Tree doing like a residency at a writer's retreat. So she has lots to talk about.
That sounds amazing.
They do a super cool like desert westerny kind of
sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty neat. But so he's out on tour with her. And then our paths are going to cross like ships in the night at the beginning of ours. So we leave on June 3rd, and we go. Our first gig is June 4th in New Orleans.
Okay.
June 3rd in New Orleans, they are playing and coming this way. So they're going to play Houston on the 5th. So I have to fly Braden out. I've got part of my old band is in New Orleans, and they're going to play with me and Ben.
Okay.
And we're flying Braden in to New Orleans after that, and then we pick him up and do the rest of the tour.
Okay, that's pretty crazy, but okay.
That's how things work now.
Yeah.
I mean, the
That
scheduling
makes sense,
is tough.
though. Yeah. I mean, with COVID, it's just made everything a lot more complicated.
Yep.
And how do you subsist on the road? Like, where do you stay, and how do you get paid? All that kind of stuff.
All wonderful questions. All things that I'm still not sure that I know the answer to, but
Okay, I'm just curious.
But so we're going to mostly stay with friends when we can.
Nice.
All the cities that we play in are pretty strategic in that we know other people there. Ideally, you want to play in a city where you've got friends who are in a band in that city, and you can do a double bill and you can play together. We're on in my house back in Austin is sort of on our little underground railroad of band crash pads.
Okay.
So we have our little bands and crash pads all around the country, and
It's like a nice network.
that's exactly what it is. So we kind of take care of each other in that way, and then pay is sort of, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I was just curious.
a few of them have guarantees. Some of them
Okay.
it's just a door or a cut of the bar or whatever it is, but we're mostly doing it at this venture, just to scratch that itch and get back out on the road and play and get our music in front of other people, and
Yeah, because I mean, if you've been shut down for 2 years, you're just kind of itching to get back.
That is the thing. So this band kind of got put together in June of 2019, which is
Okay.
when I finished the record. And the record officially came out in October of 2019.
Oh, wow.
I did a month-long duo tour with my bandmate who is now in New Orleans.
Okay.
And then we had a whole bunch of stuff lined up for 2020 that we never got to do. So like South by shows and a residency at Far Out that we never got to do, and a tour in summer 2020, all that stuff. So we are just now trying to pick back up some semblance of where we were. So this is still like, if you want to kind of take out the last couple of years where we were sort of locked from being able to do anything, this band is still technically like less than a year old.
Okay. And now, you gave me a vinyl copy. Did you just print vinyl? Did you print CDs? Did you...
We have CDs as well.
Okay.
We printed vinyl and CDs.
And
Yeah.
do you take both on the road? Because I was always worried about taking vinyl, like melting and stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna risk it and do it, but
Okay.
I think if you can like sandwich it in, like we'll take one of the sealed boxes, whatever, and if they like the ones on the middle are okay, those ones on the outside, maybe. That brings up a good point though too. Like maybe there's some sort of like styrofoam container or something that I can help protect them from the elements in. But also we're gonna, it's nowadays you have to haul all your gear inside as soon as you get to where you're going. Anyways, you can't leave stuff in the car.
Yeah. I don't think you ever could you?
I mean, people did, but it didn't work out well.
Yeah. I remember plenty of gigs where I'm like, no, I'm tired. It doesn't matter. Get your stuff
Bring it inside.
There's no way I'm leaving it outside.
If you want to keep it, you bring it in.
Yes, exactly. That's another cautionary tale.
That is a great cautionary
Yes,
tale.
exactly. Well, this is cool. Do you have any other stories you want to share?
Great question. I probably do have other stories that I could share. Honestly,
Throw 'em out there.
I not necessarily a story, but I do just kind of want to give a shout out to all the incredible people that have been in my band and that I've played with in the past.
Absolutely.
Because the list is pretty bananas. So I had Josh Fleischman was my drummer for a period of time, who played with Israel Nash. And he was very special to me because I was a fan of his before he came into the band. He asked to come into the band, which was like amazing,
That's incredible.
Yep. I've got Johnny Keys is my keys player. He does all the keys on the record, which became really like a core and foundational sound on that record, which was one of those unanticipated things. We didn't expect that going into the studio, but it worked out that way, and it has everything to do with, you know, just who he is and how he plays.
Yeah.
His ability to find the song. Johnny Keys played with Uncle Lucius, and he now is with Guthrie Girls and Mike and the Bernals. They've got a Sea Boys residency, and he plays with everybody. Like,
good for him.
Good for him. He's doing great, and it's really hard to get because he's playing all the time in a bunch of different bands. I've had Claude Bernard play keys with us before from the Gourds. I've had Todd Thompson from Memphis Strange, who's one of my favorite Austin bands. I love those guys. Rocky Erickson's old band, which is Matt Long, Eli Southard, and Trent Pruitt. So Trent's the one who's in New Orleans now, and you know,
he's going to join you for the gig.
He and our other buddy Pat from the band Greasy Alice, who we're going to play with in New Orleans, are going to join Benji and I on stage on Saturday. But yeah. So I just wanted to get, and then I don't want to miss anybody. There's Jeff Black, who we just heard, played with us today.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Anderson, who plays a bass in my band, but is also an incredible songwriter in his own right, and super young. He's like 25 or something crazy. So yeah, and then Braden Guess, who we talked about earlier. But yeah, I mean, just a crazy roster of musicians that has played in my band, and I just feel really, really fortunate that I've had all these folks play with me. No bad apples, which is rare.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could say that.
I know that my experience is not the norm.
Not the norm for us, us indie girls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been a total delight having you in studio, and this is my first in-studio recording since before COVID. So in 2.5 years, you're the first one back.
That is such an honor. Thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for being here. Look her up online, O'Keefe-music.com, or O'Keefe is me on Instagram. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Gfire.
Bye.
Bye.